And now, Wogan's Radio Fun continues as we tune in for the second part of his celebration of the best of radio comedy.
And welcome to part 2 of Wogan's Radio Fun, our tribute to the grand days of steam radio when it was called a wireless, not a tranny, when nation still spoke unto nation. This, of course, was long before British Telecom, and when your chewing gum never lost its flavour on the bedpost overnight. As you can see, I'm surrounded tonight by some of the great names from the heyday of British radio, and later I'm going to be talking to Beryl Reid, Harry Secombe, Spike Milligan, Eric Sykes, Peter Brough, and we even have a rare on-screen appearance of Bill Cotton. They're all here tonight. And we'll be recalling shows like Educating Archie, Dick Barton, Special Agent. Dun, 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 dun. I've even got a script here from one of the great shows, Round the Horn. Fantastic show. Do you remember Round the Horn?
I don't like you. Don't worry. Come on. Oh, hello. Hello. It's Mr. Wogan. Mr. Wogan. Yes. Oh, it's Bona Tavada, your dolly oldie. Who are we? Who are we? Tell him. Tell him who we are.
Hello, I'm Julian. This is my friend Sandy.
Oh, hello. Bona. Come down, yeah.
Of course, it's Round the Horn. I used to listen to it when I was a child. Many's the Sunday lunchtime I twiddle the old cat's whisker.
Cat's whisker? You sound old-fashioned, making us sound old-fashioned, and he bold.
Bold, he's gone too far. We're not that old!
No.
Mind you, we're not in the first flush.
No, he hasn't flushed for years, have you? No, he hasn't.
No, I like to keep myself to myself.
He's become quite withdrawn, haven't you? Withdrawn.
We haven't heard you on the air for some time.
No.
What have you been doing with this?
Well, to tell the truth, we have been rather quiet lately. I mean, after we retired from show business, we decided to go up Portugal.
Portugal, the Algarve, Albufeira.
I'm the same to you.
And we opened a nice little guest house.
Guest house. Bona Latti. Bona Latti. As the regular Omi from Omi.
Yeah.
Omi from Omi, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Unfortunately, it fizzled.
Fizzled right out. Fizzled. Which was a rotten shame, wasn't it? Oh, it was a shame. You put a lot into that, didn't you?
Everything.
Go on, tell him you put a lot into it. He put his pension in.
Well, half my pension, or as the French might say, demi-pension.
There he goes again. French, you see. Oh, he's a dab hand at the Polari. Oh, you had that partnership, didn't you? You went into partnership with that big Omi fisherman. Oh, swarthy he was, airy, with the great gold earrings. He used to take you out, didn't he?
Yes, we used to go sardine fishing of a night.
In his smack. You had the smack. Fishing smack. Yes. Sardine. Then tell Mr. Wogan.
Oh, disaster.
The storm come.
Storm come.
You were blown overboard, wasn't you?
Overboard.
Yes, you had to hang on to the side of that boat,
Yes,
didn't you?
Ruined my nails.
You hang on to the side of that boat. He was hanging on to that boat for dear life.
Did you manage to drag yourself on board?
No, just casual wear, jeans and sweaters.
But then the bottom fell out.
Oh, right.
The bottom fell out, yes. And I went down with Spanish fly, didn't I?
You should have gone up.
Yes, I know. I got the plane home, though, didn't we?
Yes.
We come home.
And since then, we've sort of been at loose ends.
Loose end, really. But we've been thinking, I've got plans. You know, my finger's been in several pies. And we're toying with it, aren't we?
Well, dickering, I think.
Dickering, yes. The theatre has beckoned.
Yes.
The theatre has beckoned.
We're
planning the return of Jewel in a show which is more mysterious than Phantom of the Opera, more feline than cats, more puzzling than chess, more miserable than Les Miserables. Oh, what a show. Oh, tell him about it.
No, I don't like to.
Go on, force yourself.
No.
Force yourself. He might put money into it. He's got a bit.
Well,
tell him that.
I'll play this miserable phantom, you
That's
see,
right.
with a tortured eek, who's dressed up like a cat that plays chess.
How does that grab you? How does that grab
He's
you?
grabbed.
You're grabbed, yes.
Lips are pursed.
Yes, you're puckered.
Yes.
He's puckered. Yes, he's definitely puckered.
Well, it starts off like Follies. You see, I come down this great staircase dressed in this huge cloak with a sequined top hat.
Sequined top hat. He's the reincarnation of Etty King. Etty King. Oh, it's wonderful. Half man, half beast, half cat. Oh, it's incredible, isn't it? His soul calls out his soul, doesn't it? And he half moans and half croons this fabulous lament.
Try to do it.
Silent ball, doing the Lambeth walk. Oi!
Well, as I think I said on Monday, one of the great abiding mysteries of radio to me is that a ventriloquist and his doll ended up starring in one of the most successful ever radio comedy shows. I mean, a ventriloquist on radio. The show was called Educating Archie, and it became a springboard for young talent to become major stars. Now, before we meet two of them this evening, let's take a look at young Archie when he transferred to television.
Now, have you had your breakfast? Oh, yes, Brough. I had 8 sausages and 3 eggs. What? You ate all that alone? Oh, no. I had some salt and mustard with them. Oh, did you? Yes. And then I helped Mrs. Twistle with the washing up. Oh, I wondered why your hands were so clean.
Mr. Brough.
Yes, Mrs. Twistle?
Mr. Brough, you'll have to do something about young Archie.
Well, now what's the matter?
Well, when I wasn't looking, he went and tipped a whole bottle of glue into my wash-up water.
Well, I had to gum up somebody's work.
Archie Andrews, Irene Handel and Peter Brough. Now, let's meet the lady who was Archie's girlfriend on the radio, Beryl Reid. Yes.
Ed Arch.
Yeah. Hey, happy days at Ed Arch.
Oh, wonderful. Because Peter Brough had a sort of, I don't know what it was a genius for getting people who were on the crest of the wave and giving them that little push which we all needed to become well-known on radio.
Yes, of course, there were so many stars that
Oh, I
started
know.
Educating Archie. Now, you played Monica and Marley. Is that
Yes.
where you started, Monica and Marley?
There was a little girl who lived next door to my mother, and she said she wasn't supposed to come through the fence, you see, and said, "Oh, hello, Mrs. Reid, aren't I squeezy?" So, of course, it all mounted up, and then I had a terrible stepdaughter who said, "She's my best friend, you know, and I hate her." And I got a Henry Hall guest night, and I thought, I wonder if I should do the schoolgirl. And the next big thing was that Peter Brough came along and said, "Would you like to be in Educating Archie?" And I nearly went mad. And I never thought anybody'd give me a good job. And I'm always dressed up for the radio shows. Oh, in my original school uniform, which I've still got.
As if you were on a theatre stage.
Oh, yes. Because you feel a bit of a nana going, "Oh, I'm absolutely fed up," if you're dressed as a civilian. I had these black stockings all torn and this filthy hanky up my knickers. I mean, you see, when I was at school, if it was, what's that? Smellina, we used to call it. Semolina. Yes. That went straight into my hanky and up my knickers. I know. And to the nearest loo when I got out, that I wouldn't eat. And sago was frog spawn. And so, you know, it was all in my head. And, well, so it progressed.
Thank you. Beryl Reid. Thank you. Well, Beryl is going to stay with us. Now, one of the writers of Educating Archie can't be with us tonight. He's gone to seek even more fame, greater fortune, and a suntan in Australia. But I did manage to eke a few words out of him before he went.
What I did was, I used to write pictures. See, that's why I think that radio isn't fully used today, or never has been, since the Goon Show. And before that, Educating Archie, I used to write word pictures. For instance, in one I remember was a brass band walking on the pier. And it, and the fella leading them didn't know how to say halt. So at the end of the pier, and the front line dropped off, and in the second line, till in the end, he just go, boom, boom, boom. And then he said, what's that word again? And he said, halt. See, now, these are visual jokes. Yes. And at the end of every show, we used to do the last section was a thing about Stevenson, who built the first rocket, steam engine. And they had Max Bygraves and Archie and Hancock. And what they were doing, they were building the rocket. And all the sound effects used to have a marvelous time, because they were banging tin and bang, dang, dong, 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 dang, dong, dang, dang. Then we had a thing, knock on the door, and Hattie Jakes was playing the mother. She said, I was asleep, boys, and then all the three lads used to go, and then she said, good night, then, and as soon as she'd gone, dang, dong, bang, dong, dang, dong, bang, dang. And the payoff to that was every time the mother came in, they pushed all that they had made under the bed. But discovery seemed imminent. The bed was now 9 feet off the floor. But it was word pictures.
Fantasy. Eric Sykes, thank you for joining us.
It's been my pleasure.
How do you have your Christmas turkey on a beach in Perth in Australia? Now, please welcome the man himself, Peter Brough.
Yes, Peter Brough.
It's the vexed question, really, and I'm sure generations to come will have the question, why a ventriloquist on the radio?
Well, I always used to say, well, why not?
Well, it's as good an answer as any, I suppose, Peter.
Yes, and we used to try and capture the imagination of the people. When you're in radio, you have to paint a mind picture with which to capture the imagination of the listeners, you all know. And we tried to do this through Archie Andrews, the character of this cheeky little rascal that all the kids could identify with, you know, right to the country. And then we'd get them as listeners, they'd bring their parents, and we'd end up with a nice big audience and a nice good listening figure and some bread and butter.
And he was so popular, as you said, with the royal family.
Well, I don't know about so popular, but we certainly had the privilege of presenting the royal family household Christmas party. We did that for about 20 years, and most of the people you've seen here tonight, one time or another, have been. Yeah. And I remember one occasion, King George VI, that was last year. No, you weren't. He said, look, he said, after we'd been introduced and chatted for a while, he said, look, he said, I'd like to have a look at Archie's head. He says, could I do that? Well, now, ventriloquists never like that sort of thing, you know. But you can't refuse the king. So we took his head off and he gave it to him. He worked all the controls and showed them to Queen Mother and Princess Elizabeth, as she was then, and Princess Margaret. And they all had a good laugh. And then when they finished, he handed the head back. He says, well, thank you very much. He said, let me tell you, he says, that's the only fellow I've ever beheaded in my reign.
Peter Brough. Thank you. Right. Our thanks to Beryl and Peter. Now let's go and talk to all those noble souls who've been sitting over there patiently for the past 2 days. It's amazing the effect a barrel of BBC plonk can have. Our panel of stars. And so we return. It's been a pleasant 2 days for all of you. Yeah. Let's talk. Leslie Phillips. You're still with us, are you?
I was fast asleep. I'm sorry.
Well, of course, we remember the Navy. Let's listen let's listen to your prowess at sea before we start to talk to you.
That should...
Blimey, we're aground.
Mr. Phillips.
Well, it's hardly my fault, sir. I mean, starboard lookout should have told us we were over a dodgy bit.
That was, of course, the Navy lark. You damaged an awful lot of ships, didn't you?
Well, I think it was great fun, really. I think I caused more damage to naval property than the Navy did themselves in 2 world wars.
But it ran. It was an incredible run. 18.5 years?
It was something like 17 or 18 years. It was a very long-running show. The great delight about it was the cast. It was a very, very, very happy, super happy cast. I made a lot of pictures, and I used to go all over the world making pictures, and nothing would stop me doing the Navy lark. I used to come back from all over the world, pay my own fare, I may say, to keep the show going. In fact, the fare cost me more than the fee. I think you all know what I'm talking about.
At the back, we have 2 of our most famous radio and television personalities. That's Barbara Kelly and Bernard Braden. Welcome. You came here a boyish figure, Bernie, from Canada. Was the language ever a problem to you?
Well, I'm just thinking tonight, having watched and enjoyed Kenneth Williams and Hugh Paddick, I can remember that Barbara and I used to be billed as a gay couple in the 50s. When we first came here, there were a lot of phrases that we didn't understand from North America. For example, you know, the old ones like elevator and lift, subway and underground, things of that kind. And there were 2 phrases that meant nothing to me. One was the word blue in terms of doubtful material. And the other was that phrase, I won't wear it, which meant nothing to us. So we had a Canadian writer working with us as well as Frank Muir and Dennis Norden. And Eric wrote a line for me, which was in a proposal scene to Barbara, in which I said, if I came to you stark naked and said, this is all I am, this is all I have, and this will only diminish with the years, the bargain would still be yours. Well, on the Monday morning, I was called in by the producer and told I had to go and see the head of light entertainment. And I said, why? And he said, because Eric Nicol is your problem, not mine. So I went in to see Michael Standing, who was wearing a blue jacket, a blue shirt, a blue tie, blue trousers, blue shoes, and blue socks. And he said, explain that line to me. And I said, well, it means whatever you think it means. He said, in that case, you should never have done it. It should not have been on. And I just want you to know that I will not wear blue material.
I'll move up to the second row from the back and ladies and gentlemen, Dick Barton Special Agent Noel Johnson.
So, yes, sir. When I say right, you make a dash for it. Keep zigzagging all over the place. Make yourself a more difficult target.
What about you, sir?
No good both of us running together. They'll be bound to hit one of us. I'll follow as soon as you've got across. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Give me the word.
Get ready and try to imagine you're running in the Olympic Games. Good luck, Snowy. Now then, right. Do it, Snowy. Good man. He's made it.
Listen to the next installment of Dick Barton, Special Agent.
We were talking in the first program about the Green Book, about the standards of decency. Dick was a very, very clean living detective, wasn't he?
Yes, he became one.
Yeah.
He did have a girlfriend to start with in the series, but the whole series caught everybody by surprise by its success. And the children latched onto it in a very big way, as everybody knows. And the BBC suddenly had a fit of conscience about this, and they drew up these this ridiculous code of rules. Out went the girlfriend, out went alcohol, out went smoking. Now, apparently, I now see, looking at this code, that the alcohol thing only really referred to Barton. But I think that probably Ted Mason or Jeff Webb, or one of them who was writing it, thought he'd have a little sly dig. Because in one particular episode, he had these two desperados who would think of nothing of killing their own mother, going in, no, not to a bar, as it was in the original script, where we were to tail them, but to a milk bar. And sitting up there and calling for a milkshake. They evidently decided that drinking milk was their forte, so to speak.
Well, honestly, I want to thank you personally because as a young boy, I never missed Dick Barton. And in fact, I've never been able to listen to the Archers with any degree of affection because they replaced Dick Barton, and I've never really forgiven Ambridge for it. But thank you, Noel Johnson. It's a pleasure to see you and meet you. Now, sitting in the second row, he was the first ventriloquist to have his own radio show. It was Saveen, of course, and you're welcome. There's something unusual about your co-presenter, wasn't there?
Well, the programme we had was called Midday with Daisy May, and this Daisy May was my presenter.
Yes.
Isn't that right?
Yes, yes, it is.
Yes.
Who is it?
Who?
Yes.
Terry Wogan.
Oh, sorry. He's nice.
Yes, we had a programme called Midday, but the thing about it really is true in history, is that Daisy May was originally a boy doll, a boy character, and she was the first sex change in the ventriloquial field. Isn't that right? I made you, didn't I?
Yes, and it hurt.
Well, I imagine, as they say, where your hand is, it probably still does hurt. Anyway, thank you, Saveen. Now, sitting behind you, Cardew the Cad. The scarf, as they say in the cap, were the trademark of Cardew the Cad, and all our youths and all our radio listening. And you St. Fanny's was the school, wasn't it?
That's right. Strange name for a boys' school, but...
You remind us of the old school and its days.
Yes. You will see by my scarf, you will see by my cap, I belong to an old public school. But my bat is not straight and I don't play the game, and I think that a sportsman's a fool. So have no illusions that I'm what I'm not. I'll tell you right now that I'm bad. My name's not Carruthers or Carstairs or Craig. I'm Cardew, the old school cad. Who played manly games and of cricket was fond? Not Cardew, the cad of the school. Who behind the pavilion played games with a blonde? That was Cardew, the cad.
Cardew Robinson. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Percy Edwards. You were kind of jack of all trades of radio, weren't you, Percy? I mean, yes. I tell you what, before you give us the bird songs at eventide and all the rest, and the dogs barking and all those terrible things, think we're in a menagerie, let's just hear something from a very successful radio series in which you were involved with George Cole called Ignorance is Bliss.
No more for me. Or me. I've had a wonderful lunch.
Shall I give it to Psyche?
Well, dogs shouldn't have sweet things, really. Still, just this once.
Do you think she'll like it?
Oh, good gracious, yes. She'll eat anything.
That's not very complimentary to my cooking. Psyche. I've got something for you. There.
Well, the ignorance was mine. Of course, it was a life of bliss. But, which one was you there?
I played Psyche, the dog.
Oh. Go on, do it again, then, if you're so smart. Oh. Little dog, that one.
Little dog,
Can
yes,
you do big dogs?
Yes. All breeds I do. The corgi.
Can you do it?
Corgis always say wrong, wrong. Pekingese. It's rough.
Tell me, did Psyche ever meet a mate?
Oh, yes. Then, when I had the pups, everybody, they were all so excited. Diana Churchill was saying, oh, I love that one. They came to the last one, and they're all named, and the last one was called Brandy. And Brandy had to sneeze. It said Brandy must sneeze. Colin Gordon says, well, my old budgerigar, he always called me my old budgerigar, well, how are you going to do that? And I said, so Brandy was born.
The fantasy of radio, thank you, Percy. The old chairs must be getting a little hard. You've been here for 2 whole days. After Christmas is no fun. Patricia Hayes, I saw you shifting somewhat uncomfortably on your chair there. Now, you worked not just for the BBC, but you worked for Radio Luxembourg as well, didn't you?
I did, yes.
What did you do for them?
I did a programme called, well, it was about Master OK, the saucy boy. I played the part of the saucy boy.
I see.
Incidentally, I think I'm about the oldest person here, but I always play the youngest part.
You've got a young
No,
voice.
darling, I
You always played boys or girls?
Well, I didn't always play boys, but I did play a lot of boys.
Yeah.
And the reason was that there weren't many 12-year-old boys. You had to be 12 before they were allowed to employ you. And there weren't many 12-year-old boys who could read a whole long script in half a day and be able to perform it. And by the time they were old enough, like 14 or 15, their voices had broken. So they used to say, boys may come and boys may go, Pat Hayes goes on forever.
You also...
but I grew to hate playing boys. I hated it because they wouldn't give me any girls. And fortunately, television came along and I was able to gently slide out of the boys and play the sort of parts I play today.
Yes, and played them very successfully, and to much acclaim. You also had a part or parts in Raise a Laugh, hadn't you?
I
with
did,
the great Ted
yes.
Ray.
That was nice.
Yes.
I played a rather sexy voice who used to say, not until after 6 o'clock.
Pat Hayes, let's have a look at a clip of Ted Ray.
Mr. Ted Ray and his violin.
Don't play that bit. Must have been to other fellows.
And as Jimmy Edwards sneezes his way towards the end of the evening and into a new year, I want to thank all our personalities, all these great names, these great people from radio. It's been a great pleasure to meet all of you. Thank you for talking to me. Now, if you asked anybody who is working in radio in the times we're dealing with tonight, or anybody who's worked in comedy since, and asked them to nominate the show that did perhaps more to change the way we laugh than any other, I think they'd all choose the one that went something like this.
Here, who is that snoring in that frock?
That's the new sound.
Is it Fender?
It's Neddy. He thinks he's the Queen of England.
Hackers, let us play a game and push him down the well.
Yeah.
He's falling in the water.
Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the Goons, or at least two of them, Spike Urkel's Milligan And from Highway Sir Harry, Neddy Segoon, Secombe. It's still funny, though. It's still funny, isn't it?
We didn't see it. We were behind the thing.
Yeah. Can you two still... Can you get on with each other? Do you still bear the sight of each other?
Yes, it's still fun.
A finger.
Stop pointing, Jim.
Stop pointing, Jim.
Well, yes, he's lovely. He's lovely.
Yeah.
He hasn't altered
Get
at
on
all.
all right.
Yeah.
Still.
What?
The pair of you.
He's deaf.
Who is he? Oh, you fat giggling fool, you.
Do you remember your first meeting?
Yes.
Well, tell us about it.
I don't remember it.
I'll tell you about it then.
Tell him about it.
It was in North Africa.
I don't want to catch it.
We happen to be on the same side, you know.
He's been on my back ever since.
And he was in the 7.2 gun howitzer regiment, and we were in the 25-pounder regiment, and we had to dig gun pits for them. And unfortunately, the gun pits we dug weren't big enough. So when they moved in on a night occupation, the gun was fired on a lanyard, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it was a big gun, and I had to pull the lanyard, and because it was a very dangerous gun, we used to move away like this. And when we pulled it, the bloody thing disappeared over a cliff. Right down among his tents. And I had to go down with a lantern saying, "Have you seen a 7.2 cannon?" And he said, "What colour?"
Yeah. You met up afterwards, and you started as crazy people. Is that what you called yourself first?
Yeah. Well, the BBC thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
They were the craziest. They bought it, you know, really.
Those crazy people, the junior crazy guy.
Oh, yes,
yes.
yes.
And you
Mind you,
decided...
there was some extraordinary things happening, like one night I used to live in a flat opposite Peter's Cellars, and I thought I'll put myself in rags with a 3-day growth of beard and a tray of matches. And I woke him up at 3 in the morning, and I said, is anybody interested in a thriving wood and sulphur industry? So he didn't think that was funny. I went back to bed, and an hour later there was a knock on my door, and he was standing there stark naked and said, "Do you know a good tailor?"
It changed into the Goons. Whose idea was to call it the Goons?
It was me, actually.
Yeah. But what did you base that on?
There's Popeye's cartoon. Remember the Goons?
What made it such a success, Harry?
I think... It was young people's humour, and because we didn't come from a show business background, any of us. I think Peter did, didn't he? But the four of us originally, I mean, Spike and
4 of you
Mike,
or 4 of me?
2 of me and 1 of you. So we were iconoclastic. We were chopping away at the feet of the old established comedy, I suppose. Yeah. And because it was different, I think all the youngsters appreciated it. You know I'm all over that. So,
and the sound effects. You went to great lengths to get those right.
Yeah, I remember one particular time, he wanted the sound of somebody being hit by a sock full of custard. So he went out, none of the effects seemed to work. So he went up to the canteen at the Camden. There was a canteen up there. And he said to the little Scotch lady behind the counter, he said, "I want an egg custard." Right, you are, Spike. She thought he had a bad stomach. So he went up 20 minutes later to get it, and she prepared it lovingly in this little earthenware bowl with nutmeg sprinkled on the top. "Thank you," he said. He took his sock off and spooned the custard in.
Then I went to make this effect. It didn't work. It didn't work. No.
So he finished up with a sock full of custard.
Yeah.
And no sound effect.
And never wore those socks again.
Oh, yes, he did.
Did you know any Goon characters? I mean, you based them on anybody that you knew.
Mortimer
Were they
Snerd.
figments of your imagination?
Mortimer Snerd. I based Eccles on that. Was Mortimer Snerd.
Yeah.
But Blue Bottle was a character that Mike Benteen sent along to us, wasn't he? Remember?
Yeah, he's a very tall, thin scout.
And his beard. And he talked like that.
Do you think he ever recognised himself when he was listening to the
I think
radio?
he's quite proud of it, actually.
Yeah. What were your favourite Goon characters or your favourite Goon?
Mine was Bloodnock. I loved Bloodnock. I loved him most of all.
Yeah.
Peter used to do that, yeah. I still love, I think I liked Blue Bottle and Eccles best. But then there were two characters, Mr. Lalcock and Mr. Banerjee. Oh, my goodness, my goodness. Terrible things are.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the third member of the Goons has passed away.
He's no longer with us.
Not with us, but...
In fact, he's no longer with anybody.
What do you think? What do you think is... That's Peter Sellers again. What do you think?
Black humour, folks.
What do you
black
think?
humour.
What's the black dinner jacket? What do you think his greatest contribution was?
Well, the voices, I mean, the characters he created. And if you stood next to him, I mean, originally we had one microphone, then I was so fat they couldn't get round me, so they gave us three. And you stood next to him, and he became the characters. I mean, he blew himself up for Bloodnock, and he shrank for Blue Bottle, and he became wizened for Crumb. A tremendous thing to watch, really. Very uncanny man, very strange man. I remember, it's another story about him. At 3 o'clock one morning, the phone went, so I couldn't use that. And it was Peter, and he said, "Will you come round right away?" I said, "Well, I'm not unconscious. What do you mean, come round?" He said, "A bit late, hurry up." See you in the end. And he said, "Please come out." I said, I thought he was having trouble with one of his wives. One was leaving, or one was coming in, or they both collided. Both collided. So I just put my overcoat over my pyjamas. I got my mini minor. I drove there. He was sitting outside. It says 3 in the morning, winter time, snow on the ground. And the engine running. I said, "What's this?" He said, "Look, this is a brand new Rolls Royce." I said, "You could have told me that on the phone. I'd have believed you." He said, "No, look," he said, "there's a squeak in the boot." I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, look, he said, take this piece of chalk and this torch, and I want you to get in the boot and close it, and I'm going to drive it up and down the street, and when you hear a squeak, you can't make these stories up, they've got to happen, right?" He said, "Make a little cross." So I thought, so I got in, stand good, and he drove this Rolls Royce up and down on the pavements like this to shake the springs. The police must have seen him, because I heard a car pull up, and then crunch of gravel, and then suddenly, I don't know how you'd feel, but a policeman shone his torch on me in the boot. And he said, "Oh, it's you."
Wonderful to talk to you, and a marvellous.
Yes, well, a man can't have everything. I mean, where would he put it? There's no answer to that.
Well, we must thank Spike Milligan and Harry Secombe. Thank you. And finally, in tribute to the great days of radio, would be complete without some reference to these dulcet tones. Every Sunday, millions of lunch tables, my own included, resounded to those words from Billy Cotton at the start of another band show. Welcome, the great man, son and heir, who also happens to be the managing director of BBC Television, so I shall be kneeling down when I meet him. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Cotton.
He's not with anybody either.
Did you ever have anything to do with the radio?
Not really, no.
That's why
the
it's
only
so
time.
Don't you start.
The only thing I had to do with it was when my father was ill. Jim Davison, who was then running I think he was the assistant head of light entertainment in charge of bands, dance bands, invited me to do the programme in his stead. For 16 weeks it ended up as, and so I stood in for him for 16 weeks on radio, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Was radio or television more important to your father?
Radio, much more. Yeah. When I was running entertainment in television, if I phoned him up and said, we were taking one of these programmes off, he didn't mind at all, but if anybody from radio said they were going to take one of those off...
That was his lunchtime radio show was the important thing. There was millions and millions of people listening to all that. Yeah. Do you think we could possibly persuade you to conduct the band?
Why not?
Your head. Give them a twist, a flick of the wrist, and what the showman says. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Every morning throw will make me rich. There stands me wife, the idol of me life, singing roll a bowl, a penny a fish.
This is Billy Cotton saying cheerio for now, and don't forget, wakey wake! Give me my hat. Here, Johnson, you've had a good time shooting everybody this morning, haven't you? Pass me the band leader's friend. I'll do you a favour.
Oh, no.
Give us it here, now. There you are. Take that home and bathe it.
Well, as he used to say on the radio, that old clock on the wall has beaten us once again. And to this day, anytime you turn on your BBC radio, you'll get marvellous entertainment. My thanks to all my guests. I hope you were able to find your own personal golden radio memory amongst the ones we chose. As they like to say way back then, all the best from all of us here to all of you out there. And we'll see you next year. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.